Dr. Emily Harris was a pulmonologist who spent her days helping others breathe, while she herself was suffocating every night from stage 2 COPD that medicine said was irreversible. The cruelest antagonist wasn't a person, but the disease itself, paired with a medical system that offered only management of her slow decline, never hope for recovery. Then Emily discovered a simple nighttime protocol that conventional medicine had overlooked, and her lung function improved by an impossible 34 in just 4 weeks. But just listen to how this shocking turn of events unfolded, and why sometimes the most powerful healing comes from the places science forgot to look. Dr. Emily Harris closed her eyes and felt her chest tighten with another attack. 3 years ago, the diagnosis had sounded like a death sentence: chronic obstructive pulmonary disease stage 2. For a pulmonologist, this was a particularly bitter irony. She spent her days helping others breathe, yet she herself suffocated every night. Inhalers, medications, breathing exercises, nothing helped. Emily would wake at 3 in the morning, gasping for air like someone drowning. Colleagues noticed the dark circles under her eyes, but she brushed them off with excuses about work and night shifts. The truth was more frightening. Emily was afraid to fall asleep. The bedroom had become her prison. Each night, as darkness fell, anxiety crept through her body like poison. She would lie in bed, counting the hours until the inevitable attack. Her husband, Michael, tried to comfort her, but what could he say? They both knew the medical reality. Her condition was progressive, degenerative. The best modern medicine could offer was management, not cure. Emily understood respiratory physiology better than most. She knew that with each passing month, the tiny air sacs in her lungs were being destroyed. Scarred tissue replaced healthy tissue. Her breathing capacity diminished week by week. The oxygen saturation levels that she monitored obsessively told a story of slow decline. But knowing the science didn't make the fear any less real. If anything, it made it worse. She knew exactly what was happening inside her body, could visualize the inflammation, the mucus buildup, the narrowing airways. Knowledge became torture. One evening, her 10-year-old daughter Madison hugged her mother and whispered, "Mom, I hear you crying at night." Emily's heart shattered. The realization that her daughter was losing sleep, worrying about her mother's suffering, cut deeper than any physical pain. She understood then this couldn't continue, not just for herself, but for Madison, for Michael, for the life they were supposed to have together. But what options remained? Emily had exhausted conventional medicine. She'd seen 5 specialists, tried every approved treatment protocol, participated in clinical trials. Her colleague, Dr. Robertson, had even suggested early retirement. "Preserve what lung function you have left," he'd said gently. "Stress from work isn't helping." The suggestion had felt like giving up. Emily was 42 years old. Was this really the end of her career? The end of living fully? In desperation, she began exploring beyond the boundaries of conventional medicine. Forums where patients shared experiences, alternative treatment discussions, emerging research from smaller institutions that hadn't yet made it into mainstream journals. Most of what she found was garbage, snake oil, desperate people selling false hope to other desperate people. Emily's medical training screamed warnings at every turn, but she kept searching because the alternative was accepting defeat. Then she found something different. Not miracle cures or magical thinking, but a discussion thread about optimizing the body's natural healing processes during sleep. Multiple people, including some with medical backgrounds, were describing significant improvements in respiratory function. The concept centered on lung detoxification during sleep. Emily initially dismissed it with the same skepticism she'd apply to any unconventional claim. As a physician, she knew the lungs possessed sophisticated self-cleaning mechanisms. Ciliated epithelial cells swept debris upward, mucus trapped particles, macrophages consumed foreign material. This wasn't new biology, but then she paused. What if these natural mechanisms could be enhanced? What if during sleep, when the body entered deep restoration mode, specific conditions could activate more profound regeneration? She discovered a small study by Dr. James Cole from Portland. His research had been published in a minor journal, easy to miss among thousands of monthly publications. Cole had developed a protocol combining specific body positioning, controlled breathing patterns, and natural essential oils. The results seemed almost too good to be real. 73% of participants reported significant breathing improvements within 2 weeks. Emily's scientific mind wanted to dismiss it. small sample size, possible placebo effects, lack of peer review from major institutions. But something about Cole's methodology felt legitimate. His explanations were rooted in actual physiology, not mysticism. She reached out to him directly. Dr. Cole responded within hours, and they arranged a video call. Emily expected to find either a charlatan or an idealistic dreamer. Instead, she met a thoughtful researcher who spoke her language. Evidence, mechanisms, physiological processes. "We're not claiming to cure anything," Cole explained, his manner straightforward and humble. "We're creating optimal conditions for the body to heal itself. During sleep, your organism enters deep restoration mode, parasympathetic dominance, cellular repair, immune system activation." He pulled up diagrams on his screen. Proper body positioning facilitates gravitational drainage of accumulated mucus from lung tissues. Essential oils of eucalyptus and peppermint, medical grade, not commercial products, contain compounds that thin secretions and dilate bronchial passages. Controlled breathing before sleep saturates blood with oxygen and activates vagal tone. Emily listened intently. Everything he described had a physiological basis. Postural drainage was already used in respiratory therapy. Essential oil compounds had documented bronchodilator effects. Vagal stimulation reduced inflammation. "But why during sleep specifically?" she asked. "Because that's when healing happens," Cole replied. "During waking hours, your sympathetic nervous system is dominant. Fight or flight, stress hormones, inflammation. But in deep sleep, particularly REM and slow-wave sleep, your body shifts into repair mode. Growth hormone release, tissue regeneration, immune system optimization. We're simply maximizing those natural processes." He sent her the detailed protocol. The positioning involves sleeping at a specific angle with the upper body elevated 15 degrees. Left side down for the first half of the night to optimize cardiac output and lymphatic drainage. A breathing pattern before sleep. 4 counts inhale, 7 counts hold, 8 counts exhale. Repeated for 10 minutes to activate parasympathetic response. The essential oils were to be diffused in the bedroom, therapeutic grade, eucalyptus, globulus, and peppermint. Specific concentrations he provided. Emily studied the protocol for 3 days before deciding to try it. She told Michael, who looked skeptical but supportive. "You're the doctor," he said, "if you think there's something to this." "I don't know what I think," Emily admitted, "but conventional medicine has given me nothing. What do I have to lose?" That first night felt awkward. The angled position was uncomfortable. The breathing pattern felt mechanical, forced. Emily lay there counting breaths of feeling foolish. She'd spent years in medical school, residency, building a career on evidence-based medicine. Now she was trying something that sounded like it came from a wellness blog, but she kept going. 4, 7, 8, 4, 7, 8. The eucalyptus scent filled the room, sharp and clean. Gradually, despite her skepticism, Emily felt her body relaxing. The breathing rhythm slowed her racing thoughts. Muscle tension eased. She fell asleep without realizing it. The 3 a.m. attack came anyway. Emily woke gasping, reaching for her inhaler in the darkness. Same as always. She'd been a fool to hope for anything different. The second night was harder. Now disappointment joined the discomfort. But she'd committed to trying the protocol for at least 2 weeks. Cole had warned that adaptation took time. By night 5, Emily was ready to quit. Nothing had changed. She still woke struggling for air, still spent mornings coughing up mucus, still felt the crushing weight on her chest that characterized her disease. Madison found her mother crying in the kitchen on day 6. "Is it not working, Mom?" Emily pulled her daughter close. "I don't think so, sweetie, but it's okay. We'll figure something out." "You have to keep trying," Madison said fiercely. "You tell me all the time that good things take patience." Out of the mouths of children, Emily nodded, wiping her tears. "You're right, I'll keep trying." Night 7, night 8, night 9. Each morning brought the same disappointment. Emily began going through the motions mechanically, without hope, just keeping a promise to her daughter. Then came night 10. Emily's alarm went off at 6 a.m. She reached to turn it off, then stopped. Sat up slowly. Something felt different. Her chest didn't have that familiar tightness. She took a deep breath, and felt air flow freely into her lungs. For the first time in 3 years. She sat completely still, afraid to move, afraid this fragile moment would shatter. Took another breath, then another, each one easier than the last, filling her lungs with an ease she'd forgotten was possible. Tears came then, hot and overwhelming. Not tears of pain or frustration, but of something she'd almost lost. Hope. Michael stirred beside her. "Emily, what's wrong?" "Nothing," she whispered. "Nothing's wrong. Michael, I can breathe." He sat up, looking at her with concern that transformed into cautious optimism as he watched her take deep, easy breaths. "Is this real?" he asked. "I don't know," Emily said honestly, "but something changed. I can feel it." She got through the entire morning without her inhaler, made breakfast without stopping to catch her breath, walked Madison to the school bus without wheezing. Every small action felt like a miracle. At the hospital, Emily went straight to the pulmonary function testing lab. Her colleague Sarah operated the spirometer, raising an eyebrow at the unusual self-referral. "Just checking something," Emily said. The results appeared on the screen. Sarah's expression shifted from curious to shocked. "Emily, your FEV1 is up 15% from your last test, and your peak flow—" She checked the numbers again. "This can't be right." "Run it again," Emily said, her heart pounding. They did. Same results. In 10 days, her lung function had improved more than it had declined in the previous 6 months. Sarah looked at her friend. "What did you do?" Emily explained the protocol, watching Sarah's skepticism mirror her own initial reaction. But the numbers didn't lie. Something fundamental had shifted in her respiratory system. Over the following weeks, the improvements continued. Emily's overnight oxygen saturation, which had been dropping into the low 80s, stabilized in the mid-90s. Her morning cough diminished. The constant feeling of suffocation that had defined her existence began to fade. She documented everything meticulously, the researcher in her demanding data. Sleep quality improved, exercise tolerance increased, her need for rescue inhalers decreased from 5 times daily to once or twice. Blood work showed reduced inflammatory markers. Dr. Cole had been right. The protocol wasn't curing her disease. It was creating conditions where her body could activate its own healing mechanisms more effectively. The combination of gravitational drainage, bronchodilation from essential oils, and optimized sleep quality was allowing her respiratory system to function at a higher level. But Emily understood something deeper was happening too. The protocol had broken the fear cycle. For 3 years, sleep had meant suffering. Her body had learned to associate rest with attacks, triggering stress responses that worsened her condition. Now, sleep meant healing. Her nervous system was relearning that rest was safe. 6 weeks into the protocol, Emily stood in front of her medical team presenting her case. She'd expected skepticism, perhaps dismissal. Instead, she found curiosity. Dr. Robertson studied her test results. "Emily, this is remarkable. I won't pretend to understand the exact mechanisms, but your improvement is undeniable. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it." Other physicians asked questions. Could this work for their patients? What was the theoretical basis? Emily shared Dr. Cole's research, watching her colleagues' expressions shift from doubt to interest. "We should consider a formal trial," suggested Dr. Chen, who headed the hospital's research department. "If we can replicate these results in a controlled setting." Emily felt a spark of excitement. Maybe her experience could help others. Maybe suffering had a purpose after all. 3 months after that first breakthrough morning, Emily's life had transformed. She was sleeping through most nights. Her oxygen saturation remained stable. The crushing anxiety that had dominated her existence had lifted. She could play with Madison without stopping for breath, could work full days without exhaustion. The disease hadn't disappeared. Emily understood that. She still had COPD. Damaged tissue didn't regenerate completely, but her remaining lung capacity was functioning optimally, and her body had stopped the progressive decline. One evening, as she arranged her pillows and prepared for sleep, Madison appeared in the doorway. "Mom, you're not scared anymore, are you?" Emily smiled at her daughter. "No, sweetie, I'm not scared." "Good, because I need you around for a long time." "I plan to be," Emily said, pulling Madison into a hug. That night, as she practiced her breathing pattern, now as natural as brushing her teeth, Emily reflected on what she'd learned. Medicine wasn't just about treating disease. It was about creating conditions for healing. Sometimes that meant medications and procedures. But sometimes it meant working with the body's innate wisdom, supporting natural processes that had evolved over millions of years. She'd spent her career fighting disease. Now she understood the power of supporting health. As Emily drifted into sleep, chest clear and breathing easy, she felt profound gratitude, not just for the physical improvement, but for the lesson learned, that healing often comes not from fighting harder, but from creating space for the body to do what it knows how to do. The secret night trick that was cleaning her lungs wasn't really a trick at all. It was a reminder that the human body, given the right conditions, possesses extraordinary capacity for restoration. Sometimes we just need to get out of its way and let it work. Emily continued the protocol with quiet determination. With each passing night, breathing became easier. The persistent cough that had defined her existence began to diminish. Energy she hadn't felt in years started returning, first as small moments of vitality, then as sustained strength throughout her days. Small victories accumulated. She carried laundry upstairs without stopping to catch her breath. She laughed with Madison without triggering a coughing fit. She had full conversations without pausing mid-sentence, gasping for air. Each improvement felt like reclaiming a piece of herself she'd thought lost forever. Michael noticed the transformation. "You're different," he said one morning, watching her move around the kitchen with newfound ease. "It's not just your breathing. You seem lighter somehow, like a weight has lifted." He was right. The crushing burden of chronic illness had lifted, taking with it the depression and anxiety that had shadowed every moment. Fear had been replaced by cautious hope, then growing confidence. 3 weeks into the protocol, Emily attempted something she hadn't dared in years. The hospital stairs, 4 flights from the parking garage to her office. Previously, she'd always taken the elevator, unwilling to face the humiliation of stopping multiple times while colleagues passed by with concerned glances. Now she stood at the bottom of the stairwell, heart pounding with anticipation rather than fear. Could she really do this? She started climbing. First floor breathing steady. Second floor heart rate elevated but manageable. Third floor still going strong. Fourth floor. Emily reached the top and stopped, waiting for the inevitable struggle for air. It didn't come. Her breathing was elevated from exertion, yes, but normal, natural, the way it should be. She laughed out loud, the sound echoing in the empty stairwell. For anyone else, climbing stairs would be nothing. For her, it was conquering Everest. But the real shock awaited at her 1-month follow-up examination. Emily had scheduled the appointment with Dr. Jennifer Martinez, one of the hospital's senior pulmonologists, and someone she trusted to be objective. She needed documented evidence, proper data to confirm what her body was telling her. The pulmonary function test came first. Emily blew into the spirometer, watching the numbers climb on the screen. Dr. Martinez's expression shifted from professional neutrality to confusion. "Run it again," Martinez instructed the technician. They did, same results. Martinez pulled up Emily's previous test from 6 weeks earlier and placed the results side by side. The difference was stark, undeniable. "Emily, your FEV1 has improved by 34%. Your forced vital capacity is up 28%. She paused, shaking her head. "I need to see the imaging." The radiology department had Emily's previous scans on file. Dr. Raymond Chen, the radiologist, reviewed the new images and immediately called in 2 colleagues. Emily watched through the window as they examined her scans, pointing at the screen, their discussion growing animated. Finally, they called her in. "Dr. Harris," Chen began carefully, "we've compared your current scans against imaging from 2 months ago. The changes are significant." He pulled up the comparison. The bronchial wall thickening has decreased substantially. The air trapping we documented previously has improved. The inflammatory markers are almost completely resolved. Martinez removed her glasses, a gesture Emily recognized as her tell when confronting something that challenged her understanding. "Emily, I need you to explain exactly what you've been doing, every detail, because this contradicts everything we know about COPD progression." Emily took a deep breath, one that came easily now, and explained. The positioning protocol, the essential oils, the breathing exercises. She watched her colleagues' faces shift through skepticism, doubt, and reluctant acceptance of the evidence before them. "I know how it sounds," Emily said. "I'm a physician. I spent years dismissing anything outside mainstream medicine. But I was dying, and conventional treatment had nothing more to offer." Martinez studied the data again. "The improvements are undeniable, But COPD doesn't spontaneously reverse. Not at stage 2, not at this rate. Which is why I think the protocol is actually working, Emily replied. Positional drainage, bronchodilator compounds in the essential oils, vagal stimulation from the breathing exercises. These aren't alternative medicine. They're applied physiology. The discussion lasted 2 hours. Her colleagues examined every piece of data, challenged every assumption. Finally, Martinez made a decision. Document everything. Daily logs, weekly follow-ups. If this is real and the data suggests it is, we need to understand it properly. Emily began cautiously sharing the protocol with her patients. Not as medical advice, she was careful about that, but as information about what had personally helped her. Most were skeptical. Dr. Harris, you're talking about essential oils and sleep positions? That's not real medicine. I'm talking about 34% improvement in lung function, she replied calmly. The test results don't lie. A few agreed to try. Mrs. Peterson, 72, with severe COPD, agreed reluctantly. I've tried everything else. What have I got to lose? 2 weeks later, Mrs. Peterson walked into the exam room without her portable oxygen tank. I forgot it in the car, she said, slightly breathless but smiling. First time in 18 months. Her pulmonary function test showed 22% improvement. Then came James Wu, whose COPD had forced early retirement. After 3 weeks, he reported playing catch with his grandson without constant breaks. Sarah Mitchell, a teacher considering disability leave, was teaching full days without her rescue inhaler after a month. The results weren't universal. About 30% saw no improvement. But 68%, more than 2/3, reported significant breathing improvements. Some reduced medications. Others avoided oxygen therapy they'd been told was inevitable. Emily documented everything meticulously and wrote a comprehensive article detailing the protocol and results. The rejections from major medical journals came swiftly. Insufficient sample size. Requires clinical trials. Outside current scope. She understood the reasoning, but also knew her patients couldn't wait for academic approval. They were suffering now. Pharmaceutical companies showed no interest. Can't patent body positioning or essential oils, one executive explained. No business model. Frustrated but undeterred, Emily created a free website with detailed instructions and video demonstrations. She included careful disclaimers, but also provided the evidence, her case study, patient testimonials, physiological rationale. The response was overwhelming. Within days, thousands visited the site. Emails poured in from across the country. A man from Ohio. First full night's sleep in 5 years. A woman from Florida. Avoided oxygen therapy my doctor said was inevitable. A veteran from Texas. You gave me hope when I had none. Local media picked up the story. National coverage followed. Emily did interviews, always careful to present information accurately, never promising miracles but sharing documented results. The medical community's response was mixed. Some colleagues were supportive, others openly critical. A former professor wrote, "You're promoting unproven therapies and damaging your reputation." Emily replied, "I'm sharing what helped me and my patients. I'm not selling anything. I'm following the data. Isn't that what we're supposed to do?" 6 months into her journey, Emily sat with Madison and Michael as the evening news ran a story about emerging respiratory therapies. Her protocol was mentioned. "Mom, you're famous," Madison said. "I'm not trying to be famous, sweetheart. I'm trying to help people breathe." Michael squeezed her hand. "You could have kept this to yourself, but you risked your reputation to share it." "How could I not?" Emily replied. "I spent 3 years suffocating, terrified every night. If this can spare someone else, that's suffering." That night, preparing for sleep, Emily went through her protocol with practiced ease. The angled positioning felt natural now. The eucalyptus and peppermint created an environment of healing. The breathing exercises, 4 counts in, 7 hold, 8 out, had become meditative. She'd learned that healing often exists in spaces medicine doesn't explore. That simple doesn't mean ineffective. That the body possesses wisdom modern science is only beginning to understand. The protocol wasn't magic. It was physiology, gravity, biochemistry, circadian rhythms, nervous system regulation working together. Emily hadn't discovered anything new. She'd simply rediscovered what the body already knew how to do and created conditions for it to work optimally. Her lungs cleaned themselves while she slept. Mucus draining, inflammation resolving, tissues repairing, the body doing what it was designed to do. And across the country, in hundreds of bedrooms, others with struggling lungs were trying the same protocol. Not everyone would improve. Emily was realistic about that, but many would find relief from their suffering. The protocol was straightforward. Sleep with upper body elevated 30 to 45 degrees for optimal drainage, diffuse medical-grade eucalyptus and peppermint oils to facilitate mucus clearance and bronchial dilation. Practice 10 minutes of deep diaphragmatic breathing before sleep to activate restorative responses. Simple, accessible, effective. As sleep claimed her, Emily felt profound gratitude, not just for her own healing, but for the privilege of helping others find theirs. She'd discovered that sometimes the most powerful medicine isn't what we add, but what we allow, allowing the body to rest properly, natural processes to function optimally, healing to occur in its own time. Her lungs cleared while she slept. Morning would bring easy breathing, another day of living without fear, another opportunity to share hope with those still struggling. Because the greatest gift isn't just receiving healing, it's helping others find their own path to it.